Are you tired of spending money on games only to discover 2 hours later that you've been ripped off? Look, I know that feeling all too well. You buy a game at full price, you get excited, and then it's either empty content, repetitive gameplay, or promises that are way too big for what's actually delivered. That's why today I'm bringing you the top 15 games that are literally 100% worth your money. Games that give you decent content and a complete experience. And if this is your first time seeing me, like and subscribe, and let's get started. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Star Wars is one of those games where you play and then say, I want more. Literally. And Star Wars Jedi Survivor gives you that feeling intensely. The game makes you feel the weight of being a hunted Jedi. Not a superhero, no. But Cal Kestis is bigger and more mature here, and you can see the weariness in his eyes and in his decisions, as if escaping the Empire has become part of his character. Exploration is addictively fun. Double jump, dash, climb, and shortcuts that you gradually unlock. You enter a planet like Kobo and say, just a few minutes, and suddenly you find yourself collecting secrets and unlocking new paths for hours. And combat? It's not just button smashing. You have stances that completely change your style, slow and heavy, fast, or double wielding, and parrying, if you master it, makes you feel like you've truly mastered the art of the lightsaber. The story is darker than Fallen Order, with betrayal, ambition, and the idea of refuge haunting the characters, which adds weight to the cinematic moments. Jedi Survivor is a very intense adventure and a must-see for every Star Wars fan, and even for those who aren't fans. Resident Evil 2 Remake is one of those games that truly immerses you in the experience and atmosphere, making you feel like you're living inside the Raccoon City nightmare. The moment you enter the RPD, you feel like the place itself has a character. Dark corridors, dim lighting, doors slamming behind you, and a silence that's more terrifying than the zombies. The game doesn't rely on cheap jump scares. It relies on a slow, suffocating tension. You play as Leon or Claire, and each gives you a different perspective, but the rule is the same. Bullets are scarce, resources are limited, and the decision to fight or run determines your survival. Zombies aren't decorations, they're relentless, making you think twice about every shot. And when Mr. X walks in, his heavy footsteps turn any moment of peace into a chase, making you listen, hide, and be afraid to open the wrong door. The gameplay is polished. Clear aiming, inventory management, puzzles that provide a breath of fresh air amidst the horror, and knowing the shortcuts makes you feel like you're learning the building like it's your own home. A minor flaw? Some scenario variations are less pronounced than some might expect, but the overall feel is respectable, and the atmosphere is top-notch horror, an experience you must have, especially at night with headphones. Dead Space Remake. Okay. This game literally drove me crazy. Space terror, and you're alone in a ship that's like a metal tomb. Dead Space Remake isn't just about improved graphics, it's a complete overhaul that makes you relive the horror even more intensely. The moment you step into the USG Ishimura and feel the silence, the groan of the metal, and the flashing lights that seem to be pleading for help, you know you're somewhere no one wants to live. You play as Isaac Clarke, an engineer, not a soldier, and that makes every encounter feel truly terrifying. The story unfolds intelligently, and the remake has improved the narrative and connected the events more beautifully. Even Isaac has a stronger presence. The gameplay is the heart of the fun. You don't shoot for the head. Here you have to sever limbs. For the first time, you understand the dismemberment system and feel that you have to stay calm and target an arm or a leg, or a necromorph will attack you in a terrifying way. And the monsters? Its design is exquisitely disturbing. Their sounds, their movements, the way they emerge from the vents makes you suspicious of everything. Dead Space Remake is one of the best modern horror games, and it's worth playing with headphones in the dark if you want to test your nerves. Mafia Definitive Edition. If you want a top-tier Mafia game, This is a truly legendary remake that brings back so many memories. Mafia Definitive Edition. This isn't an open-world game where you waste time on icons. It's a masterfully crafted crime film that you actually play. You experience Tommy Angelo's story from a simple driver to a man within the family, and every mission feels like a deeper step into a world of loyalty, betrayal, and the price of honor. The remake has elevated everything: excellent voice acting, more mature dialogue, and cinematic cutscenes that make you believe the characters. Lost Heaven is beautiful with its 1930s details, heavy cars, old streets, radio stations, and music that give you the feeling of a different era. Even the driving has weight, making you feel like you're driving a car from another time period, not a race car. The gameplay itself is simple: shooting, cover, and chases, but it serves the story instead of distracting from it. Its drawback? It's linear, and some missions are incredibly difficult. But honestly, that's part of the realism that makes you feel like you're truly in a harsh era. If you like Mafia movies like The Godfather, play Mafia. Oblivion is the kind of game that makes you smile from the first minute because you're taking Cyrodiil back to all its old-world charm, but in a cleaner guise. You emerge from the sewers and see the sun beating down on the forests and lakes. You feel like you're in a classic world that was ahead of its time in its freedom. The remaster clearly elevates the experience visually: better lighting, sharper details, smoother performances, and wider field of view that lets you see the cities and roads you used to dream about without the annoying fog. But the best part is that the essence of Oblivion is still there: the Oblivion gates that open suddenly and whisk you away to a red hell, the guild quests that are still taught today, especially Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guild, and even the arena that makes you want to go round again. At the same time, the quirkiness of the NPCs, their random dialogues, and the meme-making facial expressions are still there. Hilarious, but honestly, that's part of its character. A respectable remaster of a game with a unique spirit. And if you love open worlds, it gives you a Skyrim experience like no other, worth every penny. The Last of Us Part 1 isn't just a fun game. It's a journey that makes you feel the weight of every step. From the very first hour, the world hits you with a silence that precedes danger. Empty streets, distant sounds, and everywhere you think, there's definitely something going on. The Part 1 version brings the experience back in a fitting way. Stronger facial details, deeper lighting and environments, an animation that makes you believe the character's exhaustion and fear. You play as Joel and accompany Ellie, and that's where the real magic lies. Their conversations aren't frequent, but they gradually build a bond, and over time, you discover that you care about them more than any objective. The combat is realistic and intense: limited ammunition, carefully calculated resources, and sometimes stealth is smarter than confrontation. And the clickers in particular, just hearing them makes you tiptoe. The Last of Us Part 1 is a story-driven experience and an unforgettable end of a world. Uncharted 4. Let's be honest, Uncharted 4 feels like an adventure movie, but you're in control of every scene. The first thing that strikes you is the level of detail: mud staining clothes, raindrops on rocks, and the sounds of nature in Madagascar make you feel like you're actually there. Even today, it's hard to believe it was on PS4. The story here is different from the previous installments because it's calmer and deeper. Nathan Drake isn't just chasing treasure, he's chasing a part of himself. His return to adventure because of Sam makes you see the struggle between a stable life and the addiction to adventure. The chemistry between them is excellent, and the natural dialogue makes you feel like they're real brothers, not just two characters in a game. The gameplay has evolved. You have a climbing rope that unlocks new movement options, and the encounters give you more freedom between stealth and combat. There are chase moments and set pieces that make you grip the controller tightly and wonder, how does this work without breaking? Uncharted 4 is elegant, emotional, and full of unforgettable moments. Infamous Second Son? Guys, Infamous is a game that whenever I think about it, I wonder how did it disappear so quickly? Because even today, it gives you pure superhero fun from the very first minute. Seattle and the rain and neon isn't just a backdrop, it's part of the feeling. You walk down the street and see the reflections on the ground, you hear the sounds of the city, and you feel like you're in a special mood. You play as Delson Rowe, a rebellious but not evil young man, and over time you get attached to him, especially because of his relationship with his brother, Reggie. The story's simple, but it has heart. The real fun is in the powers. Smoke makes you a ghost, you sneak and emerge from vents and teleport, and then the neon, that's where the magic comes in. You shoot like a beam of light flying between buildings at a speed that makes you forget about fast travel altogether. With every upgrade, you feel like you're becoming more dangerous and faster, and every battle becomes a spectacle. The karma system gives you 2 paths, but honestly, it's a bit too black and white. Some of the side missions are repetitive, but the movement, smoothness, and visual effects were ahead of their time. Second Son is worth rediscovering, especially if you want a fun game without complications. Horizon Zero Dawn. Imagine waking up in a primitive, tribal world, and walking beside you are metallic dinosaurs with technology more advanced than anything you know. This is precisely the hook that will keep you hooked from the very first hour of Horizon Zero Dawn. A crazy idea, but executed with such confidence that you believe it and want to uncover its secret. You play as Aloy, not just a strong heroine, but a human being searching for her origins in a world that treats her like an outsider. This draws you in because curiosity becomes personal. The story unfolds gradually, then begins to reveal layers of the past, technology, and the cataclysm that forced humanity back into tribal life, and every revelation brings a new ooh. Combating machines is enjoyable because it's tactical. You observe, identify weaknesses, disassemble parts, and use arrows with different elements and traps depending on the situation. When you take down a massive machine with a well-thought-out plan, you feel genuine pride, as if you've slew a monster with intelligence, not brute force. And the world is beautiful and diverse. Mountains, forests, deserts, designed to keep you exploring without getting bored. Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the most outstanding action experiences of its generation. Look, I think Gran Turismo 7 isn't a racing game you just turn on and hit the gas. It's a game that makes you respect driving as if it's a skill you learn. The moment you enter a track and take a turn at a very high speed, you feel the car starting to lose traction because the tires have lost grip. That's when you understand that the game requires composure and precision, not recklessness. The feel of the weight, the brakes, and the gear shifts gives you a sim-like experience, but with an easy and enjoyable interface. The details here are incredibly addictive. The engine sounds are truly unique, the lighting reflects off the body, and the changing time and weather make the same track feel brand new. The cafe mode is a clever idea because it links your progress to a goal, collecting cars and learning about their history, not just random races. With the tuning and parts modifications, you feel like you're building a car to your liking, and every modification directly impacts performance. With the controller, you can clearly feel the vibrations and brakes, and if you have a steering wheel, the experience takes it to another level. Days Gone. Look, this game is pathetic. Neither the players nor Sony spared it because of the launch. Days Gone was hit with harsh reviews because the first version was riddled with technical issues, and many abandoned it before its true nature was revealed. But if you play it today, you'll discover it's a game worth every penny. You play as Deacon St. John, a former biker living in a shattered world. His character isn't exactly a clean-shaven hero. He's irritable and weary, but over time, you see how hope returns to him and how his relationships with his friends give the story human weight. The game world is beautiful and bleak. Forests, fog, long roads, and the night literally changes the game. The feature that elevates it above many other zombie games is the hordes. When you hear their roar and know that if you're spotted, hundreds will come at you as one, oh my god, it's literally terrifying. That's where the real horror begins. You plan your location, set traps, use Molotov cocktails and grenades, and run on your bike trying not to make a mistake. Wait, do you defeat a horde after several attempts? An indescribable sense of pride. And the bike itself is part of the fun. Fuel, repairs, upgrades, it's like your lifeblood. Days Gone is an underrated experience that deserves to be rediscovered.
God of War 3. Okay, I love the God of War series, but with God of War 3, I think the series has literally reached its peak. This is a game that doesn't give you time to get used to it. From the first minute, you're immersed in a war of epic proportions. Kratos over Gaia, titans and gods, in scenes that feel smaller than the screen itself. The combat here is pure, top-quality action, fast-paced, bloody, and packed with gadgets that let you unleash your creativity. Blades feel like extensions of your hand, and with the magic and weapons you collect, every hour of the game gives you a new reason to get excited. Most importantly, the pacing never falters. There's no filler or dragging, just constant escalation. And the strongest point? The game's rich bosses. It's not just boss after boss. Each encounter is a cinematic event with a different concept. From battles against colossal gods to brutal execution moments, you feel like you're inside a Greek epic unfolding before your eyes. Even the puzzles are well balanced, giving you a brief respite without killing the excitement. God of War 3 is the ultimate definition of classic action. Bosses, madness, and spectacle from beginning to end. The Witcher 3. If there's one game in the world I guarantee you'll spend every penny on, it's The Witcher 3. Man, this game never gets old. Not just because it's big, but because it's written with heart and soul. You go to a small village to make a simple monster contract, and suddenly you find yourself in a family drama, a moral dilemma, and an ending that leaves you speechless and wondering, did I really do the right thing? That's the magic. Even the side quests have value. The world feels alive. War, poverty, fear, and ancient myths seeping from the forests and swamps. Geralt is a weary and experienced hero, and every dialogue feels weighty, and characters like Yennefer and Ciri leave a lasting impression, as if you know them personally. And the city? Novigrad is a vibrant city in itself, bustling with activity, intrigue, and corruption. Let's be honest, the combat might seem a bit dancing to some and take some getting used to, especially if you're coming off fast-paced action. But when you understand the signs, oils, and potions and enter battle fully prepared, you truly feel like a Witcher, not just some random knight. And the music? Oh my god, those moments of Skellige, the sea, and the wind stay with you. The Witcher 3, a living work of art. This is a mature, profound experience, worth every minute and every penny. Returnal. You just pop into this game thinking, I'll just try it for half an hour. And suddenly, 2 hours later, you're still thinking, one last run, haha. The premise is brutal. Selene crashes on the planet Atropos, dies, you start all over again. But strangely, the game makes you love this repetition because every run gives you knowledge and progress, even if you lose. The combat here is bullet hell, but the controls are so smooth you feel like you're dancing amidst the bullets. Dash, jump, fire, and quick decisions. Every weapon has a personality, and the traits that unlock over time change the gameplay and make you eager to try a new combination. There are moments when you're close to the end, and then a small mistake ends everything, and you realize you're upset for a couple of seconds. Then you go back, because you know you're better now. The story is mysterious and painful, and it makes you wonder, is what's happening on the planet real or a reflection of an internal struggle? What's its flaw? It's incredibly difficult, and luck sometimes affects gear, so not every run is excellent. But when you finally defeat a boss after several attempts, the feeling is pure pride. Returnal is one of the strongest roguelike experiences and is worth every penny. Metro Exodus. Look, Metro Exodus feels less like a shooter and more like a survival game in every sense of the word. The moment you leave the Moscow tunnels and step into the open air, the world feels bigger, but it's still trying to kill you. The game deliberately minimizes the HUD and makes you rely on your tools, a paper map in your hand, a radiation meter, and a gas mask that you make sure is properly filtered as if you were actually there. The journey with the Aurora train crew is the heart of the experience. In small moments of calm, talking to Anna or sitting next to Miller, you become attached to them like their family, and then you're back to harsh reality, limited ammunition, weapons that need maintenance, and constant tension because any wrong move could end everything. The weapon customization here is among the best in shooter games. You change weapon parts according to the area and conditions and enter the battle ready. The semi-open environments offer freedom without filler. Each area has its own character and dangers, and exploration is rewarded with equipment and small stories. One minor drawback, the silent protagonist reduces the impact of some emotional scenes. But as an atmosphere, immersion, and heavy realism, Metro Exodus is an irreplaceable experience.